The Gilded Age was a time of rapid economic growth in the late 19th century. The nation's first billionaires were made during this time. The economy was booming, but the wealth gap between the rich and the poor was very large. Andrew Carnegie and his family were Scottish immigrants. They were part of the working class and were very poor. So Andrew Carnegie got into the steel manufacturing business and made his fortune there. The corruption in political machines was very important during this time period, Tammany Hall being the most corrupt. Political machines were a reward system if people voted or financially supported a wealthy person. It turned corrupt when William Boss Tweed got his power. During the late 1800s, many immigrants were choosing to migrate to the U.S. to escape famine, poverty, or religious persecution. The country was quickly getting more urbanized and new industries were opening up. So this meant that jobs were opening up. But during this time, labor laws were very weak, so many workers were struggling. An important person during this time period was Jacob Riis. Jacob Riis was a photojournalist that captured the struggle that many Americans were going through. He wrote a book called How the Other Half Lives. It was about tenement living and the unsafe as well as unsanitary conditions that people were living in. An important event at this time was the Chicago Fire of 1871. The whole city of Chicago was built with wood, so when a fire broke out in a barn, it spread and destroyed the city. Instead of packing up and leaving, the people of Chicago came together to rebuild, and their city was made even stronger than ever, with a new sense of pride. The late 1800s were a time of expansion and colonization. This is known as American imperialism. At the time, many immigrants were coming to the U.S., but the government was worried that it would cause the economy to collapse. So the government decided that having territories in other parts of the world would help our economy stay afloat. Theodore Roosevelt was very important during this time. He was the leader of a military regiment called the Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War. He gained public admiration and eventually became president. During his presidency, he made many executive laws with the environment, and he believed that the government should help the economy as much as they could. The U.S. got involved with conflicts between Cuba and Spain. The Spanish government was very oppressive towards the Cuban people, so the United States declared the Span Am War. The result of the war was that the U.S. won. The Progressive Era was a time when many people saw problems within society and American culture and looked for ways to fix it. Some problems that were often spoke about were labor laws, education, women's rights, and how non-Americans or people of color were treated. Rather than one important person, there was an important group of people that played a major role in the change that took place during the Progressive Era. They were called muckrakers. Muckrakers were journalists that exposed the corruption and terrible parts of the U.S. and the economy. Some of them included Upton Sinclair, Ida Tarbell, and Jacob Riis. An important event at this time was the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. It was a sweatshop with terrible working conditions. The managers would lock the doors so the workers wouldn't take any breaks. There was no working elevator, and the work hours were long and grueling. A fire broke out and 146 people died. This tragedy caused the government to make laws for workplaces. Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of Austria-Hungary, was assassinated, and it led to the beginning of World War I. So many countries were involved because of the alliance system. Austria, Italy, and Germany were the Triple Entendre, and France, the UK, Russia, and the US were also an alliance. Franz Ferdinand was the most important person during World War I because his death was the cause of it all. Due to imperialism, the Austro-Hungarian Empire took control of Bosnia even though the Bosnians did not want to be under their control, so a group of people set up a plan to kill the Archduke. An important event of World War I would be when the Zimmermann telegram was decoded. The telegram was asking Mexico to join the Triple Entente and fight against the U.S. This made the American government angry, and it led to us joining the war. The Roaring Twenties were a time of change, growing culture, and personal freedom. F. Scott Fitzgerald was a very important person in the 20s. He wrote The Great Gatsby, and it was a very renowned book that nearly perfectly depicted what made the Roaring Twenties roar. An important event that happened in the 20s would be women getting the right to vote. This added on to the personal freedoms that characterized the flappers of the time. The Great Depression was a tough time in American history. It happened in the 1930s, and it was a time when unemployment increased, banks were closing, businesses went bankrupt, and the homelessness rate was high. The economy was crashing, and many people struggled. An important person during the Great Depression would be Franklin Delano Roosevelt. FDR was the president that helped end the Depression. He created the New Deal, which promoted economic recovery. An important event that played a slight role in the Great Depression would be buying on margin. Many people were buying stocks, but they didn't have money to buy those stocks, so they borrowed money. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and this started World War II. The two main sides were the Allies and the Axis. The Allies consisted of the US, France, the UK, and the USSR. The Axis consisted of Japan, Germany, and Italy. Adolf Hitler played a very big role in World War II. He was deranged, and his mental instability led him to commit all the crimes that he did in the 6 years of the war. An important event of World War II would be the Battle of Berlin. The Battle of Berlin was the last major conflict in Europe. It weakened the German military severely and led to the German surrender 2 months later.